Hi, everyone. Welcome back to a new episode of Emerging Brands Podcast with Kelly Bennett. Hi, I'm Kelly Bennett. I'm a New York City brand strategist who is a nerd for really good consumer packaged goods, especially food and beverage. And I have a founder on the podcast today who I've been personally really excited about because her drink is amazing. So, Hannah Bay, founder of Balmy, is on today. And Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. Like I said before hitting record, I am a big fan of your drink. I thought it was just a really beautiful balance of flavor, but also not too powerful that it like overwhelmed. It was just really beautifully done. And I can't wait to hear behind the scenes of how you created this really great drink. So, walk me through, how did you start this brand? I would love to hear your journey of how you've gotten this far.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry if you hear a little noise. There's a little construction next door all of a sudden.
Oh my gosh, don't worry. I live in New York City as well, so
You know.
I know the vibe. Yep.
So Halmi started and we launched in late 2021.
Okay.
And, it was a couple of years in the making. It was something that I've always been interested in, medicinal traditional beverages and Korean culture, foods that I kind of grew up eating. I grew up across the street from my grandma. So there was just a lot of nostalgia kind of attached to a lot of the things I was consuming on a day-to-day basis, especially during the pandemic. And
Mm,
during the pandemic, was dealing with a lot of stomach issues, anxiety. I think a lot of people were as well. And I wanted to just kind of look back into things that helped like soothe my stomach and my soul way back
absolutely.
when. And then really started thinking about, Korean culture as a whole, kind of where do I kind of fit into this world? And through very introspective journey, really started thinking about these beverages that I would, even pre-pandemic, I would make them, share it with friends and family. It was just something that I loved sharing with people and being able to nourish them as well. So during the pandemic, I started making this at home, and it was the one thing that I could kind of bottle and really just like leave in front of people's doors and like run away because we really couldn't see each other at that
Right.
time. And I also had this like aha moment of I really love these beverages. I love everything that it does for us. But then also looking at the market, I mean, the beverage market is so saturated, of course, but I really wasn't finding something that I would want to drink on a daily basis that made me feel good. So
Right.
things with minimal sugar, minimal calories, things where I could like look at the nutritional panel and say, oh, I know every single one of these ingredients. And that made me feel like I was putting my money towards something that I believed in too. So with all of that swirling around in my head, I really came up with Halmi, and I called it Halmi because it's a nickname for grandma in Korean. And I
Oh,
thought back,
okay.
yeah, I thought back to my grandma and kind of how she helped raise me, but then also just what Halmi stand for. It's not necessarily a person or only in Korean culture. I mean, when we think about grandmas in our lives, it's not, again, not just a grandma. It's this feeling of feeling very safe, very nourished, feeling very cozy and kind of just well taken care of. And that's why I called it Harmony, and that's really how it was born.
That is such a beautiful story. And I had a sense of the connection with your grandma just from your packaging and following you on social and reading the brand story. I love that. And I think that what you're doing to incorporate your culture, but putting it in this new way to share it is just really clever. And also, you could feel the intention and the comfort behind it.
Oh, thank you so much. That
You're
really means a
welcome.
lot.
Of
And
course.
yeah, just really wanting to take, traditional Korean flavors and really introduce it to a wider audience. But also going back to our name, Harmi, just making sure that whatever we're putting out there has this feeling of I feel good. I feel good drinking this. I feel good being surrounded by this brand and the content that we're putting out there and the community that we're building too.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my next question. I would love to hear the strategy behind getting it bottled and how that was, and then getting it on the shelves of these really cool retailers. I found it at Big Night in the West Village, which is one of my favorites. I would love a little bit of the strategy, and also you mentioned community. I would love to nerd out about your take on how you're building the brand itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't have a background in food or beverage or CPG in general. I was a product manager in the media space for about a decade, and I think that really helped me. It helped me learn how to um, just even, do a lot of research, do a lot of digging, how to just kind of kind of ignore my shy side and kind of just go out there and find as much information as I needed to. And I, yeah, that was kind of the beginnings of Harmony, I would like to say, even though it had nothing to do with, how it ended up. But um, in terms of bottling it, it was based off of my home recipe. So right now I have one flavor called cinnamon, ginger, jujube, and persimmon. And we are working on a next flavor right now that should hopefully be launching this year. So be on the lookout.
Ooh, I absolutely will be on the lookout.
And it's all based on home recipes. And I also like to say that they are inspired by, Korean beverages, Korean dishes, but it's not necessarily a one-to-one. We are really
Mhm.
taking these flavors that we grew up loving, but putting our own spin on it in order to really, again, introduce it to a wider audience and making sure that it does kind of fit into our ethos of having a healthier beverage company. But it was a lot of homework. It was
I'm sure.
a lot of research trying to figure out, will this drink even fit into this market I'm trying to get into? That's again very crowded, and there's just a lot of big players with a lot of big money attached to them as well. But it was really trying to find the right partners to help me manufacture it, to help me scale up my home recipes so it works out in terms of like the actual ingredients we want to use, the sugar content we're using, etc. And from there, just talking to other founders. And I think that was super key for Harmy's growth and success so far is meeting other founders, getting their real honest opinions and thoughts about working with certain partners, working with certain suppliers, and then just, commiserating together about how tough things can be, but then also how wonderful it is to make something, put it out there, get really good feedback and some not so good feedback as well. And also just like make real connections with people that we would have never met otherwise. So that was really the journey to get Hermie, from my home kitchen into a can. And then originally, because Hermie launched during the pandemic, we were focused on D2C, so selling on our
Mhm.
e-commerce site. And it was great because those were our first loyal customers. We got, information from them, we got feedback from them, and we were really able to have that two-way relationship. And, as time went on and things were kind of opening up again, really started shifting focus into retail. And, that's where a lot of our customers were even discovering other brands, and they were asking us too, when will you be available in my local shop, my local restaurant, my local cafe? And then we realized, okay, these are where our customers are, and we need to meet them there instead of trying to force them into, our website or another place where they might not want to look right now. So that's how we, ended up getting into places like Big Night. Love, love Big Night. They're so amazing.
I mean, their store curation is just perfection.
Oh my God. Every time I go in there, I'm like, oh, I
I
just
just want
feel
to live
great.
inside
Yeah,
the
I feel
store.
so cozy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And places like that, it was word of mouth through our customers, either going to these retailers and saying, oh, I just found out about this brand called Harmony. You guys should check them out. Or it was a lot of cold emailing from me, having huge list of retailers and stockists where I felt like we could work together and collaborate and it'd be a really good relationship and it would make sense financially for all of us. And then also just, meeting through other founders, other events, going there, meeting someone who might own another shop. But in terms of big night, I believe I just cold emailed them one day. And I was like, I love what you're doing. This is amazing and beautiful. And this is exactly what this curation is what we need is really chaotic time. And we ended up, yeah, just working together, getting Harmy in there. And then when they expanded out into the West Village store, I was in there as well. And they've just been super big supporters of Harmy. And that's really why I love working with like independent shops
Mm-hmm.
because you can really, again, have those real human relationships and that they can speak to your brand for your customers. And then you can also hype them up to your customers as well. And it's just really like a beautiful, mutual, beneficial relationship.
Absolutely. And I love that you touched upon the fact that it started with a cold email because so many founders, especially in the early days, the idea of cold emailing or reaching out and being like, hey, I have this thing. I hope you would like it. I feel like we can work together. The anxiety, and I see it
Oh,
because
yeah.
primarily I work with founders in the early days of building their brand and strategizing. And that's a big hurdle just to mentally get over in order to really implement the marketing strategy and growth strategy. So, would you share a little bit of maybe just how you looked at a cold email or maybe what you said to yourself to hype yourself up to send the damn email? Like, I would just love to hear that aspect of it.
Oh yeah. Again, I'm a pretty shy person in general, so cold emailing and also just hitting the ground running in person, just going store to store with your samples and just it's very nerve-wracking. And for me in the beginning it was rough, but at the same time I told myself the worst that can happen is they say no or I get no response back, and that's okay. Then
Right.
on to the next one. So it's really
Mhm.
important for me to make a huge list of places and people I wanted to talk to. I felt like could be a good fit instead of kind of putting all my eggs into one basket. So for me, it was really, again, just telling myself each and every time, it's okay. There's always going to be other opportunities if this one doesn't work out. And it might be no right now, but maybe down the line it's going to change. Um, so again, my focus was really less on how can I get my product in here ASAP. And it was more about who is actually running this shop or this restaurant or this cafe or this bar. Do I really connect with them on a personal level? Do I agree with what they're doing and, how they're running things? And same for me too. It's always kind of this two-way street.
Right.
So that's, yeah, that's kind of how I just started. And then cold emailing, instead of just saying, hey, here's my product, I think it's a good fit. It was really like, hey, I looked into your brand, or I've been there multiple times and I go there all the time.
Mhm.
And your business is amazing and you are really a community builder. Things like that. Just if you have a personal connection to where you're trying to pitch to, I think it's um, definitely worth bringing up. And again, having those real connections and saying, this is how I see my product fitting into your retail shop. And these are the customers where they're asking about, the shop in their neighborhoods, and you happen to be in that neighborhood, and I really enjoy what you're doing. So kind of putting yourself out there as not just, I have this really cool thing and you should like it.
Mhm.
More, I have this really cool thing. I think you would really like it because XYZ, and here's how it's going to be beneficial for you.
Thank you for touching on that again, of giving a bit more of the nuanced conversation of looking at a cold email and a pitch because it's important to put yourself out there. And what you touched upon as far as building relationships and doing your homework so it doesn't just feel like a mass email blast. It feels like you care and you want to build a
Right.
relationship and you want to build a partnership and you really want to be mutually beneficial. And I think, again, coming from when someone receives that pitch, no matter the context, you're more inclined to answer that or to write
Right.
back or just to explore or jump on a call. So I'm really glad that you said that because I feel like that's a very important and impactful piece of advice that sounds kind of simple, but it really makes your brand and your pitch stand out from the rest.
Absolutely.
So I would love to hear, what is the future of your brand? Like, what are you mentioned another flavor that's possibly dropping this year? It sounds like you're starting with one SKU at a time, which I love that approach as well. I would just love to hear a little bit behind the curtain of maybe something you're excited about this year or just the years to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah. This year, I think it's going to be a wild year.
Ooh,
The
okay.
last 2 years were great. It was amazing just putting something out there and seeing what sticks. And it was really fun. But at the same time, moving forward, I want to put more intentional strategy behind how I'm doing marketing, in-person events, sampling, activations, all of that, or which,
Right.
retail partners we grow into next and which regions we go into. So I'm really excited to kind of have a more balanced roadmap this year versus, the last 2 years, it was just grow as much as I can. And I'm a one-person team right now and still bootstrapping.
I
So
was going to ask
yeah,
you that because it's impressive what you've done, and I was curious how big your team is. So you're doing it yourself and also bootstrapping.
yeah.
Wow,
I
that's
have an
amazing.
amazing design intern named Annika. Shout out Annika.
Shout out to Annika. That's
Oh,
amazing.
but yeah, just the day to day, it is me right now. And I think, again, just having this kind of planned out roadmap is going to be the most important thing for me this year and really
Hmm.
sticking to it. And again, knowing when to be flexible and pivoting.
Sure.
Like we're working on that new flavor right now, very excited for it. It's been something I've been thinking about even before I launched Halmi. And if my goal is to launch it at a certain time, but of course, everything takes so much longer than we always anticipate,
Always.
always. So, if that has to be moved out a little bit, okay, then that's fine because that is a big priority for this year. What else will have to move because of that? So it's really keeping me accountable to
Hmm.
really stick with the vision that I have this year. But then I'm also really excited to, again, just expand into other retail shops that will, allow my customers to go there instead of um, maybe having to travel a little bit further out. Hopefully, it's a little bit closer to them. Maybe it's um, somewhere that they've been asking me about for a while and making again those relationships with retailers too, kind of seeing what they're looking for this year, what they're forecasting in terms of trends, what their customers are looking for. So really excited for that. And then also I'm planning a couple of really fun collaborations and events this year. And one of my favorite things involving Harmy is to do events in person and actually meeting people face to face. And
Yes.
again, as a very shy, introverted person, this was not my jam before, but I always loved meeting new people, but it was overwhelming when it was just a bunch of people at a party. So for me, kind of curating these events and having these collaborations is just my way to say like thank you to our community for supporting us from day one. But then also like let's have fun, let's discover other brands and other, founders and chefs. And there's just such a big world out there that I would love to tap into more. So definitely looking forward to that in 2024.
Love your plan. As a brand strategist too, you articulating how you see a brand strategy and following to it and the value. I'm like, yes, I'm going to send this recording to many clients. Be like, I promise. It's It's cool to have a brand strategy and to follow a plan. I promise. It's exciting.
Whew,
And I
yeah.
love what you just touched upon also as far as a shy person or someone that's a bit more introverted, um putting yourself out there, but doing it in a way that feels really authentic and exciting and creative to you. I also am more of an introverted, shy person. However, hosting events, doing collaborations, doing in-person curations, it helps get over that social
Mhm.
anxiety in my experience because there's a clear purpose. You know why you're in the room.
Right.
You have direction. So I think that was also a really great takeaway for founders who understand the importance of leading a brand and
Mm,
essentially being the face or the story behind the brand, but getting creative with finding what works best for them to put themselves out there. So I'm
right.
really glad that you just touched upon that because I know that also is a big hurdle, especially in the beginning. But that's a really great takeaway. I was going to ask what your advice is for an emerging founder. You touched upon so many things. So something I would love to know is you mentioned the power of connecting with other
Mm.
founders, and that's a big part of what I want to do here on the podcast. So, would you share maybe some of your favorite places or spaces or groups to connect with other food and beverage founders or CPG founders?
Oh, yeah. I think, again, number one, before you start anything, I think talk to as many people as you can. It's going to help you, and you'll find that there are so many supporters out there that will cheer you on no matter, what direction you end up going in. And for me, I've just found that, especially in the food and beverage space or CPG in general, the folks are very open and
Hmm.
just very caring and kind. And that's not an experience I've had always in my life. So it's really surprising. And I think we all know how hard it can be in these industries that we're in. So I think we're always just kind of hoping to push each other forward together because if one person grows, everyone grows, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but I would say the startup CPG Slack is amazing.
Okay, I follow them on Instagram.
Oh yeah, they have so many amazing resources available and um just everyone in there is really open to giving a lot of suggestions, advice. There's channels dedicated to operations where you might just say, I'm looking for a manufacturer that does this specific thing in this specific region. And you can see there's like 10 people already giving contact information, like intros, anything from
What a
that
great
to
resource.
it's amazing. And I can't believe that we're so lucky that this exists for free. And then I would also check out Start Small, Think Big. I love that
Hmm.
organization. I'm also part of it, and I do greatly benefit from their resources as well. So they offer free marketing, financial, and legal services for free. You just have to apply, and I think there are some stipulations to it, but really, amazing people who are giving up time and energy to really help. And I've done financial forecasting with someone who has a day job, but meets me on the weekend to help me with that. All the way up to, updating my terms of use on my website and privacy policy. Like they will write up everything and work with you. And I think that's just amazing that there are these resources that will help small businesses and startups, especially when you're first getting started. Um, and I would just say, on Instagram, on social media, if you're seeing a brand that you really like and you like what they're doing, just reaching out to them, whether it's a DM or a cold email. And again, or LinkedIn, find the founder on LinkedIn and just
Sure.
say, I really love what you're doing. Do you have a couple minutes for a coffee to talk about this specific thing that I'm really curious about? And I think when you do have that specific thing, like I'm really struggling with distribution, or I'm really struggling with my financials and like finding a way to gain more capital, then I think that really helps kind of lead the conversation and make those relationships versus hey, I'm starting something. You want to just grab a coffee and there's really kind of no, route to
Parameter.
exactly.
Yes.
So I would kind of think about those things that you're really wanting to deep dive into with somebody. And again, as a introverted person, it is hard sometimes, but I think just putting yourself out there, and there's always going to be people, I think, that respond back always.
That's a great reminder. Where can we shop your brand?
Yes, you can find Halmi on drinkhalmi.com. We do ship to all the states. We are currently sold out right now.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, sold out a couple months earlier than anticipated, which was a good and bad problem. So working to get restocked very soon. And then you can also, on our website, on our store locator page, find all of our stockists. We're in about 90 plus stockists right now, all
Incredible.
across the states. Yeah, just amazing independent folks and places. And hopefully there's one near you, but if not, definitely message me and we'll try to get that in there.
Amazing. Hannah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was the first interview of the year, and what a great way to kick things off. So, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Go check out Hannah's incredible brand and drink, and congrats on all your success. This was a great way to kick off the year.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. See you on the next episode.
Bye.